In this book, Mr. Manson teaches us, dating-wise, that being polarizing can be a very positive thing, and rejection is our friend. This is the My Biggest Takeaways podcast, where on a weekly basis, I break down a book, a podcast, or a documentary I may have seen, and I talk about 5 of my biggest takeaways on this particular piece of content. And this week, it's Mark Manson's Models Attract Women Through Honesty book. And let me tell you, I very much enjoyed this book, and I cannot wait to read this book through again. I very much enjoyed it. My absolute biggest takeaway from this book, the main thing that I got from this book, is how Mr. Manson talks about being polarizing. And this is where the honesty part comes in. Basically, truly be yourself. And that's not saying just be a jerk or anything like that, but just really be yourself, because this is the way that you're going to attract someone who really likes you for you. If I can be a little vulgar for a moment, there is an example where he talks about a guy in the book that he goes in a bar setting, he goes up to girls and he tells them that he wants to pee in their butthole. And of course, anyone with a right mind would think this guy is crazy, but he actually ended up attracting some women through doing this method. Most women, they brushed him off, but some women thought it was funny, and then he ended up attracting women through this method. So that's one method of being polarizing. Just truly be yourself. And he also talks about in this book, another really, really big takeaway that really made me stop and think, was regarding rejection, and how he says that rejection is a good thing. It basically is going to weed out all of those individuals, all those women that you're trying to date that are not digging you, that are not feeling you. And most of the time in dating and in trying to meet someone, most women are not going to dig you. You're selling yourself. And, out of 100 women, if you meet 10, if 10 answer back to your messages or, actually want to talk to you, and then out of that 5, maybe you'll have a back and forth, and maybe out of that 5, it'll just be like 3 to 2 that you'll actually end up talking to, maybe even going on a date with. So rejection is a good thing. Rejection is weeding out all those non-prospects. But I wanted to go ahead and get into 5 of my biggest takeaways from Mark Manson's Models Attract Women Through Honesty. This first one is on page 94, and he talks about the friend zone is the biggest possible time sink, because most guys who are stuck in it entertain fantasies that they're simply waiting for the inevitable to occur. It plays into their fantasies of romance and destiny. Their perspective is that they are the perfect man for her, and one day when she wakes up and realizes how foolish she's being, she'll realize that the love of her life had been sitting right there by her all along. This never happens. Ever. It's an incredibly arrogant and manipulative mindset to adopt. It's no wonder women see it as so unattractive. That's on page 94. The next one is on page 101, and it says, you'd be surprised how many women will respond with attraction to nothing other than a man who is bold and willing to stick his neck out. But surprisingly, a lot of women will react warmly to these advances. Even if they're not interested and they reject you, they respect a man who is bold and honest. I've had tons of occasions where I approached women boldly and honestly, stating directly that they were beautiful and I wanted to meet them. And despite rejecting me, they were so impressed by my boldness and confidence that they promptly introduced me to a friend of theirs who was available. That's on page 101. Moving on to the next one here. This is on page 198, and it says, the next time you approach when she sees you coming, and trust me, she usually sees you coming, know that she's already rooting for you. Secretly, she wants you to succeed as much as you do, and for a moment, she's your biggest fan. And your role as a man is to take action. It's all on you. It's always on you. You move things forward. That's on page 198. The next one is on page 226. It says, first impressions are crucial. Studies show that we base the majority of our perception of people in the first few minutes we spend with them. This initial perception can extend and influence our relationship to the person for weeks or even months. If I look at all of the women I've been with, just about all of them, I'd estimate about 90% or so, it felt on within the first few minutes of the interaction. We clicked, and for that first impression of each other led to dating and or sex further down the line. This last quote is regarding paying on a date, and this is on page 257. It says, pay. Unless she physically pulls out her wallet, credit card, and stops you, until she physically does that, just pay. Yes, once in a while you can get women buying you drinks and stuff. There are even ways to influence them to do this. But at the end of the day, unless you're broke, take care of them. It's a no-lose move, and it will win you points with many of them. And that's the final takeaway from this book. I have many takeaways in the book, but I just picked random 5 from this absolutely fantastic book. In between this book and the last book on the last episode of the My Biggest Takeaways podcast, which was Corey Wayne's How to Be a 3% Man. Like, I'm on this dating jag right now with books. Right now, I'm currently reading No More Mr. Nice Guy, which is recommended. Is actually recommended by this book. In the end, they recommend other books, and it's one of the books recommended. And so far, it's a really psychological book, in the sense of, like, why is it that nice guys are just nice guys all the time? And I'm very much digging that book now as well. But I definitely think you get a big spectrum in terms of, let's say if you read Corey Wayne's book and then you read this book, there are some similarities in between the two, which are great. But then there's these completely opposite points of view, which I think are great to have in your tool belt, especially when dating. And I recommend these books to any man who is dating right now, present day. This book and the Corey Wayne book, because I really feel that they are helping me in my dating life right now. I'm not having crazy success, but I am having success, and I'm not so down anymore. Like, if I reach out to 10 women on a dating app and none of them respond, I do know that I'm weeding out those that are not interested, and that's okay. But if you want to know more about this book, definitely check out the link in the show notes. By buying this book through that link, you are going to be supporting both myself and the author of this book. And you can find a lot more of my biggest takeaways on the YouTube channel, because I've been doing these for a little while, and the older ones are on the YouTube channel. This is episode number 3 for this podcast, and you can check out the 2 previous episodes where I have James Altucher's Reinvent Yourself, Corey Wayne's How to Be a 3% Man, and all fantastic books. Definitely check them out. Definitely, I'm more on a lot of self-improvement stuff. This is what I like. Maybe in the future we'll do a book based on fiction or something like that. But like I said, I very much enjoy self-improvement stuff. So that's like I'm just reading a lot of these kind of self-improvement books. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're seeing the video version of this on the YouTube channel, mybiggesttakeaways.com is the website. I'll catch you on the next one.